Now it's time to actually run the card sorting sessions with your users. This is exciting and scary. I'll show you how to set up your meeting room for sorting and run the session so you'll be ready to get participants in. You're just genuinely interested in understanding how to put the cards together so your website will make more sense to users.
Now you can take notes throughout the session for analysis later on however you want. Some people like pen and paper, some people like to use a laptop.
Start by getting a large table, or if you don't have a big table, an empty wall with blue tack. Now, I'd suggest to provide water and some lollies. This can help the thinking process along. Then just have your cards in a pile ready to go. An open sort means you're not providing your users with any suggested categories for the cards. They get to make up their own. You get to see what words they actually use to describe the different categories. But it might mean you end up with a huge list of categories or users that just don't know where to start. Closed card sort means you provide the categories. For example, they'll probably be the titles of your top-level navigation. Users simply have to sort the cards into the categories. This does make the process easier for users, but you might miss out on the insight you would get from seeing what titles they come up with for your menus. If you're doing a closed card sort, place the category cards on the table or wall like this, ready for the participants to place the cards under. If you're doing an open sort, provide blank cards and markers. It can also be a good idea to record the session, especially if you're doing a group session and there's lots of discussion. This will allow you to go back and listen again later if you missed anything. This can be as simple as using the voice memo app on your iPhone, but just remember to get your participants' written consent before you record them.
Okay, let me show you an example of a card sort. We've got all of our cards in a big messy pile on the table. We've got our trusty pen and some blank post-it notes for the open card sort. First is a closed sort. This is where we put up our high-level categories as we want them. And then we just dump all of the others in a pile and get our users to sort them for us. It helps to take a user through one example of card sorting just to get them acquainted with the idea. So for example, online donation makes sense under donate, whereas clothes for kids is a program, but maybe it goes under what we do. Either is fine. There's like no rules to this. Let's say that we want to put it under programs. We might then decide that we're going to make an online donation for the Clothes for Kid program. Top level hierarchy, next level of hierarchy, and then a series of items below it. When you start, lay out the top level stuff. Put the rest of the stuff in a pile and let your participants have at it. Now, if you're doing your sort with a group of people, they can run around the table and play with it however they want and talk while you take notes.
Explain that you're asking for help to find what categories of information should be on the site's homepage and what those categories should be called. In an open card sort, explain that you want to see what groups of cards make sense to the participant and that you'll ask for a name for each group of cards once they've finished grouping them. If it's a closed card sort, just ask them to fit the cards within the provided groups. As you're observing the session, take plenty of notes. Pay attention to language. What words are participants using to describe different cards and categories? Ask them to talk out loud as they're doing it. You're interested in their thought process and why they're placing each card wherever they put it. Let them know there's no right or wrong answer. It's not a test.
Now, we only have 14 cards in this sort. If you've got more, you're going to need a bigger table, like a boardroom table, or even post-it notes and a whiteboard or a big wall. The next way to do it is a open card sort. And for this, you'll need blank cards and a pen. First, we'll ask people to sort the cards into roughly obvious areas. So programs is different to donating. News and media is news. What we do is a program. Blog is different. Clothes for kids is a thing we do. Donation, community health, donation, news about the CEO, I guess, staff, maybe get involved with the team, a news article about the team, and I don't know, in the media. So I've just created 4 categories. So under the our work idea is community health, clothes for kids, and programs. What we do, I feel like that goes at the top. Now let's do the same for the other categories. Press has in the media, local news articles, and I guess getting involved. Let's put the blog there too. Which means that staff, the CEO, and news and media, I guess that's its own category over here. If for some reason I believe give dollar bills is a good category over here, why not? A bequest, an online donation, and other forms of donation. Which just leaves the team, the CEO and our staff. Notice how I came up with completely different category headings and moved all the cards around into different areas. If I wanted, I could create subcategories as well. Under our work is what we do plus programs. And as a subcategory is community health and clothes for kids. When we're done, we take a picture. Note all of this stuff down digitally in the spreadsheet, and then do it again. Which means that each group will start with a new, messy pile of cards to sort.
Sometimes participants get stuck. Make sure they know that's not a problem. Knowing where they're getting stuck is actually useful because it might indicate a problem with your labeling. If the participants find some cards too hard to classify, they can just leave them off to one side. If, at the end, the participant has too many groups for the homepage, ask if some of the groups could maybe be combined. One common challenge you might face is when you get a user who's not very enthusiastic or isn't talking or contributing. If they're in a group, ask them what they think and if they agree with what the others are doing. Try to draw them out. If it's an individual card sort, remind them to talk out loud as they go. Ask them why they're making certain decisions about cards or why they chose that name for a category. Sometimes you just can't engage a person though, and that's okay. Try not to have extra people in the room taking notes or observing. This can be distracting to participants. If you have stakeholders who are interested, you can always offer to show them the recording later. While you're running the sessions, you'll possibly have to act as a bit of a moderator. It's really important though that you get involved as little as possible. You're there to observe, not contribute. Try not to interrupt participants unless they actually ask for help. If they ask you questions, simply ask them in return, what would you think? Or where would you assume you would find it on this site? Push them to come up with the answers themselves, so you avoid influencing the results in any way. Once the participants have gotten as far as they can, if there's time left, ask them some questions. Why did they group certain cards together? Why did they choose the labels they did? Were there any cards they weren't sure about? At the end, thank the participant and give them their payment or gift voucher if promised. Once they've left, record how they've sorted the cards. Take a photo of the sort or use the spreadsheet we've provided in the template. This template shows how to correctly set out a sitemap in a spreadsheet to represent the different hierarchies. Make sure you record the participants' names against the sitemap they created. Once you've completed all your sessions, you should have recorded 15 sitemaps if you did individual sessions or 5 sitemaps if you did it in groups. Finally, reshuffle the cards to make sure you don't influence the next session. This process can be quite tiring. If you've never run sessions like this, some of the sorts won't go as well as others. Maybe you lead the participant a little or they weren't super engaged. That's okay. That's why we do 15 of them. You'll have loads of notes too with lots of insights into the way users are thinking about your content. And you'll already get a much clearer picture of how the content should fit together, which is pretty exciting.